Um, so this session, it sounds very dry because it's about research into storytelling and education. Hopefully, I'm going to make it as participative as possible. So I'm going to give you little activities to do. Um, and so we've got how many people we got? We've got one, two, three, four, five. So I'm, if people are willing, going to put you into to start off with a breakout, two breakout rooms will go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach a file to the chat. Okay. And the file is, it should come in a PDF that says Sutton Smith, and it should be there now. So if that works, could you if only one of you in your chat has it, then please share your screen. Everybody should be able to share their screen. It's not a problem. And your task is to look at these examples of children's storytelling and to put them in age order. Which one was told by the youngest child? Which one was told by the oldest child? And they only range between 2 years old and 6 years old. Now, of course, developmentally children change, have different speeds of development and everything, but that's the range that these examples are taken from between 2 and 6. So that's your task. Any questions? No? Then I will give you about 5 minutes to do that in, and I will pop in and out of the rooms to see how you're getting on. And don't just and please, yes, don't just go, oh, well, that's obviously different, but look at why. What do you think makes you think that this was a story told by a very young child? This was a story told by a slightly older child. Okay. So I need to break out rooms, and we're going to go. What do people think? What were the things that was making you think, oh, that's an older child, that's a younger child, and
Oh,
and it's talking, but you're muted, Annette. Sorry.
the bears eating the porridge.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a real story, so we thought not having a real beginning, not having a real end,
Okay.
and kind of arrow.
Yep.
What you say, an arrow in
Mhm.
in English. That does we thought must have been very young children, very
I mean,
casual facts actually.
oh right, but Steph has got students
Yeah.
coming in and out, so invite them to join in. Why not? Well, let's have a look at them, and so those are the as they are.
Hmm.
And so this is the where the age is. Bearing in mind, until you start doing some very close analysis, it's
Ah,
actually quite difficult to see.
okay.
Um, so the tiger one is 2, King Kong is 3, um, Little Bear is 5 years old, and one the book about colors is 6. So let's have a look and think about what is going on here. So if we look at the 2 year old, what one of the ways that we can look at stories that children create them. So sorry, stories anybody creates, we can
Mhm.
think about dyads, and dyads are things that connect together. So where you have an idea and it connects to another idea, we call that a narrative dyad. So well, actually, sorry, I missed out the first part. The first part is we look in a story to see if somebody can tell a story about one person or one character or a group. So here, actually, I can see why you might think this one was older because they have focused on the zebra. So
Mm.
you've got zebra, zebra, then he, and we know that he refers to zebra all the time. There is real consistency in that. But in terms of dyads, you've got those four phrases in red there. Went to the park, got lost, didn't know his way home, had to try both ways. They're all
Mm.
concerned with one idea. And then you told the police and had to tell him what house was like the zebra told the police. So you've only got basically got two ideas in the whole story. They've managed to connect them, but there's only two ideas going on here. So
Oh.
it's quite a young story. Interestingly, we go to this one at 3 years. and again, so that's the zebra. This is the tiger. That's right. Yes. So you get tiger and he in yellow. The tigers, we've got a different group now. So we've got the tiger is a member of a group, so that's more complex. And then we've got additional characters of the horses, the fireman, and Robin come in. That's as in Batman and Robin. It's 1981. This unfortunately, there's been nothing like it. This is a book. It's a book like this thick, just of children's stories, and there's been nothing like it since. So we're sort of still going back, and you have to look at the cultural references there. Um, but if you've got here, the tigers got dead in red. Rescue trucks came. They came and they didn't know what to do. Um, we've got outside the earth, ran away to the home. So there's not much in the way of development of the story because we've got the very simple dyads. They're just two sets of ideas again, but we've got more characters and yet still holding on to the main character. The tigers started. There was a tiger at the beginning. We're still talking about tigers at the end, but there's more characters. There's more complexity coming in here.
Mhm.
This one, you see all the cultural references coming in now, popular culture there. So we get King Kong, he, Frankenstein. It had two helpers, and the two helpers refers to Frankenstein and Godzilla. They refers to all of them, and then the people are different. So we're seeing those coming through as well. Um, and then you've got those ideas coming through. So you've got out of the houses in the blue box, make camps. So they needed to make camps because they got out of the houses. So you see a cause and effect coming in here between the dyads. And in the red boxes, they got so fat that they popped. Cause and effect. So you've got those two ideas being joined together there. And at the beginning, we talk about the ferocious monster. And because he's ferocious, he scares people, which is the scared in red as well. So you can see how the complexity here is developing because you're getting multiple ideas and they're being separated. So the ferocious monster is a few. It's got some other text before we get the scared bit. So the child here is joining things not just that are next to each other. They're actually creating spaces between the ideas.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and if you get, so please do shout in and correct me if you think I'm wrong. Go on, Annette, you're muted again.
I, I wouldn't say you were wrong, but I'm making stories with 4, 5, 6 year olds, and I found out that the ones who have a bigger story arc, they are the all elderly children.
Yep.
So, and the very young ones, they can add many, many characters, but it doesn't make a
Yes.
story.
Yep.
So I was looking at the story arc to try to estimate what
Vygotsky
age. Yeah.
Vygotsky talks about young children when they do that they're creating heaps. So
Hmm.
what you get is you get one idea on top of another, and they don't relate to each other. You don't get the arc there with
Hmm.
younger children, and what you see with the older children, you do. So here, we're getting the little bear again. We've got he. There's only two characters in this one, I think. We've got his friend, but we understand when the friend is acting and when the little bear is acting. But you see the dyads coming through, wanted a place to eat, didn't find a place to eat, so went to a friend's house. So we're getting cause and effect coming through again. When he was finished, he started to make another bowl. Why did he make another bowl? Because he'd finished. Why did he eat the second bowl? Because he'd made another bowl, because he'd finished. So we're seeing the connections joining up all the time. He stopped eating porridge and he got very, very full. Why was he full? Because he'd eaten all the porridge. Why did he go inside? Because it was raining. So we can see how cause and effect all the way through is joining up. It doesn't have
Mhm.
the same arc, perhaps, in this one, but we're not talking about every child. I've chosen ones that are typical for the age groups, if you like, but you will have a 3-year-old who has a more developed, a 6-year-old who has a much less developed. But these are sort of like the typical where children might be. And then you've got the six-year old, and just I mean you can see how I mean there's a lot more here to underline, but actually there's a lot more going on here. And I mean, I was with Hannah, and we were talking about the fact that if you look at the second sentence, there was one color missing, the color he didn't have. We're not told what that color is, but at the end of the story, he found the pink. He was so happy. That arc right across the story. So it's a much more developed piece of narrative from this child. Um, so one day, the man that owned the book threw it away. A little boy found it. Why did he find it? Because it had been thrown away. The little boy was wearing the color the book always wanted. The book felt so happy. Why did the book feel so happy? Because the little boy was wearing. So we look backwards and we can see the cause and effect relationships going on here, and we see the complexity of it there. Um, I actually really, I mean, he says it's a dumb story, or the child says it's a dumb story, but I really enjoy this one because of how you can trace the same ideas coming again and again and again being developed through the story. Does anyone want to come back at me on this, or you, I'm going to stop sharing so we can talk about our experiences then. And Annette, you're talking about you're working with 4-year-olds, other people's experiences, and people may have experiences as parents and grandparents rather than teachers as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I was going through and ordering them, I'd got A and C round the wrong way. I thought C was younger than A, so that is quite interesting. I think it's what you were saying, Annette, that there were lots of characters. There was no arc. That's why I thought, oh, they must be the younger one. But yeah, so that was interesting.
I found out last week when I was working with the 5, 6-year-olds, they just say, well, this and this and this. I'm in the house, and there's a huge spider coming in, and then that's the end of the story.
Yes.
Or maybe it will just bite the sister, and there's not so much development in the stories they make. And if there would be any development, they would add another character.
Yes.
So that's.
Yes, absolutely. Because and the complexity in the last one, that they haven't needed to add lots of characters. They develop the idea of, and so the problem gets developed and different solutions come up. But young children, that again, it's that heaping thing, that we just put this idea on top of this idea on top of this idea, and without seeing the connections between them. But the suggestion I'm going to make, and I think there is research, I think the research backs this up, is that by us intervening in those children's lives, we make a difference because we are modeling story with the children. We are developing narrative. So we, as storytellers and as educators, working with children, are actually helping them make that journey and to help them articulate what they're doing as they're doing it. I know the stuff that, I mean, it's a pity that Hannah Need can't be here at the moment, because she's doing this sort of like every week in school with children, so she can see the results of this intervention with children. David.
I first of all, sorry that I couldn't participate before now, but I couldn't. I was doing other things at the same time. Yeah, fascinating analysis, Alice. That's really, really fascinating. One thing I wanted to add in is what you were just talking about the difference it makes when we intervene, and also about just how sometimes it's not related to fluency, because I've got an example I often share of a little boy telling a story in Nepali. So I don't understand the language, but his mother shared the video with me, and she's a very active storyteller coming from a very strong storytelling culture. And this little boy's 3 years old in his pajamas in bed telling a story with huge confidence and fluency. The story goes on for about 5 minutes. It's all about a lion that comes and eats the whole family, but then the cat saves them. And it's a logical thread all the way through. But it is very simple. It doesn't exactly have an arc, no, but it's an and. And yet the confidence and fluency and expressiveness of this child is incredible. And it can only be accounted for, I think, by very naturally gifted storytelling, but the effect of being with a mum coming from an oral culture, maybe a more oral culture than we have in the UK, and he's in Nepal, and it's bedtime, and obviously they're used to playing in this way. because she shared this with me, having done a workshop that I did with her. So, like, you know, the effect of that intervention, especially from the parent, I think, with very young children. I don't know, what do you think about that?
I think one of the key things that you're talking about there is the relationship between the mother and the child means that the child has an audience who cares. That I think what you say is important. I was supervising a student once in school, and I was giving feedback at the end. It wasn't storytelling, but and I said to her, I need to say that it is very rare to watch a beginning student teacher who hears what children say, and you hear what they say, and you can see their reaction, that you hear what they say, they realize you're taking them seriously. And she burst into tears on me. She said, "Oh, that's so beautiful." And I go, "Oh, awkward." But it was that moment of you can see it when children feel they're being taken seriously, then you're empowering them to be that expressive, to be that person. Yeah. Anyway, I want to move on. So what I'm going to show, I'm going to share my screen, but I'm going to share that one. I'm going to share that one because what I'm going to give you now is a different kind of activity. I'm going to put you into two groups and give you each group one of these. And you have got here different findings. Now, these findings are, some of them are from research and some of them are from books that are based on research, okay? And what you can do is you can take one and you can drag it anywhere on the page, like this. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to put the one that you think is most important at the top here, and then the one that is least important at the bottom, and spread them between them. Now, the important part is the discussion as you do it, not because there is no right answer. Obviously, there's no right answer. The important part is what comes out of the discussion as you have a go at doing that. So I'm going to give you the links. I'm going to create the breakout rooms first. Let me stop sharing. And then I'm going to put the links in the chat for you. Okay. So let me find the links in here. There's only two groups, so I can do that. That's fine. Do. So that's the links in the chat, and you should be able to edit and do things. So let me go to breakout rooms, which are there. I'm going to recreate them in a different way. Recreate them, see what happens. And so room 1 is Annette, Shilpa, and Steffi. And room 2 is David, Hannah, and Keith. Okay, so group 2. So David, Hannah, and Keith, you need to click on group 2. Annette, Shilpa, and Steffi, you need to click on group 1. And then you can manipulate it together, and you can disagree with each other and drag a box away when somebody's put it where they think it should be. And I'm going to give you around 10 minutes on this because it's quite a big exercise to do. And hopefully, last time I did this with a group of teachers, I had to stop it in the end because it just went on and on. I mean, it was very positive. It was wonderful, but it just did go on a long time. Is there any questions before I press the magic let's go into rooms button, or is it okay? No questions? Okay. Let's go.
Yeah, Alistair, you said the most important. Could you just, the most important in terms of?
That's for you to decide.
Okay.
It's completely open. Completely open. Hopefully you can see my PDF. I will upload this PDF to the Facebook site. So the first one was about stories, not in any order. This is just in the letter order that they were presented. The thing around helps learners refer to a world that is not present and events that are not happening now is absolutely vital because it's around decontextualized language. Being able to use only contextualized language means that I have to talk about here and now. This flask is in the room. I am holding the flask. Yesterday, I held the flask is talking about a time that is not now, a me that is not now, and a flask that is not now. And so story and being able to use language about things that are not happening now is vital. So storytelling is one of the key aspects of developing decontextualized language. Individual storytelling can be difficult for some children, and group storytelling provides a safer space. I am a huge fan of group storytelling. I use it all the time in my work with children. I will be doing it on Monday. I'm working with Year 6 children, and we're doing storytelling and drama leading into writing, but we will be doing group storytelling rather than putting any child, particularly as I don't know them. As a storyteller, I'm going in. I don't know these children. I don't know which child might respond well, which child will respond badly to being put on the spot. So I try to ensure that I'm doing group storytelling with them. There is a qualitative difference between talking about a story and telling a story. And this is an example of a book rather than research. So it's a book, but it ties into me in my understanding. My own research is in the sign systems of storytelling. And the sign systems of storytelling are very different to telling somebody about a story. Well, there's this story about a Little Red Riding Hood, and she's a little girl and she does this, or telling the story of once there was a girl called Little Red Riding Hood. These are very different systems going on when we're communicating. We've already done D because we did that in the first part of this session. That's where all of that comes from. E, being able to visualize narrative is a key skill. Now, this is a book, it's an old, but 1997, and it is problematic because some people cannot visualize. So we need to recognize that there are people, including storytellers, who cannot create visual images in their heads of stories. So although this might be true for many or most of the learners we're working with, we need to accept that some of the learners that come in front of us will not be able to do that. So this is where the research bit, there's a bit of research missing. Now, I said to my group, there's a bit of research that I cite with students to say, do not do research like this. To give these children something I think is really important, I'm only going to give these children second best. So we need to think, so the research ethics around storytelling, we need to be looking at, well, I'm using storytelling. What happens when I do this storytelling? And what things can I see from the storytelling that are coming out from the children? This is hopefully, this is, and we have to be really cautious to go, this may be coming from the storytelling as opposed to coming from anything else they're doing. It's just that ethical stand needs to be really clear. And familiar story structures can support learners of English as an additional language. There's a lot around this. There is so much stuff on storytelling and English as an additional language or English as a foreign language. A lot of it from universities all over the world. Really interesting stuff. However, I was invited to be part of a research project from a university in the UK signing up with a Chinese university, and they were going to look at how storytelling enables children to understand mathematical concepts. And they asked me, I was originally a maths teacher, so that I'm a sort of natural fit in there. And good luck, Steffi, good luck to your students. And within the second meeting that I had with the researchers that were going to be going into, setting it up in schools, I realized they were not talking about storytelling. And a lot of the research that is out there that talks about storytelling is not storytelling. It is story reading or story writing. And I explained my objections to their definition and said their limited understanding of read, because they were mathematicians. I said, you've got a problem here with your understanding of how reading and storytelling works. And one of them went, oh yeah, somebody else told us that. And I go, oh, just oh, so I didn't get involved in that research because so there are problems around research, and we as storytellers need to be aware. Number one, is it storytelling? Don't just read a piece of research and go, oh, it's about storytelling. Actually check what they've done in the methodology. And two, think ethically, is this an appropriate way to be working with learners? If you think storytelling is so fantastic, Why would you use another way? Unless it's an equally fantastic way of teaching. Which is why when I'm teaching, and on Monday I will be teaching, I will be using storytelling, I will be using drama, I will be using writing, I will be using discussion, I will be using all kinds of things and bringing them together. Now, before we go into it, because we've got some time for discussion, I just need to say before we go to discussion that I have created a reference list of these articles plus useful texts that I think might be useful in relation to education and storytelling. And that's what I gave to the UK Independent Commission on Oracy as part of my evidence on storytelling and why storytelling matters in oracy in education. So that I will also put up on the Facebook group, so people have got access to that. They've got the evidence stuff we've used, and now open to discussion. Silence was the stern reply.
I have a question.
Yes, Annette.
Because you said you love group storytelling so much. I always love couple storytelling.
Yeah, I would include that. Paired storytelling.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Yeah. I love it. I love watching it. And I say sometimes I get 60 children in a hall and they're all stories, I've got 30 children storytelling with at one time. And I go, I can't hear you because there's too many of you.
Yes.
But I know if your storytelling is having an effect because I'm watching the person who is listening while you're talking. And if they're doing this,
yeah.
then
It's
I know.
my favorite. Those are my favorite moments. Everyone
Absolutely.
telling stories.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. Yeah.
Just to echo what you just said, Annette and Alistair, absolutely. And for me, a large part of what I do in schools is storytelling stroke story listening development, because actually a lot of it is about training, if you like, people to listen, to listen in a very focused way, because that makes the storytelling work. And if the partner, child or teenager is actively listening and showing that they're listening and responding, then every child can be a storyteller, can't they? But how impossible that is if their partner isn't functioning in that way.
Which goes back to the discussion we had earlier about the mother and the child and the audience, that you have an audience that wants to hear what you have to say and values what you have to say. That is enabling.
And I also found out I make a carousel. Is that a word?
Yes.
So every child has the ability to tell his or her story 5 times in one classroom of 25 children. And I change the groups all the time, so they hear the stories of all the children. And you can see that in the first round, not all children will be telling. They say, oh, I'll never say a word. But in the second round, they, without even paying any attention to it, they all tell their stories. And then in the third and the fourth, they'll be all telling stories. So that's very effective because you can see and hear the stories develop
Yes.
and the telling develop. Yeah, really.
Yes. And the confidence to use my voice.
Yes.
And I mean voice in its broadest sense, not just volume. Yeah. Yeah.
It's also quite a nice exercise where, in terms of carousels or storytelling, where the person listening then tells the story that they've heard in their own way to another person. And then eventually that original story gets back to the first person who told it, but it will be told in a very different way. And that can really help children sometimes who struggle to come up with ideas, but because they're telling somebody else's story but in their own way, they then build confidence. So as it's going round, you actually find that their storytelling skills are expanding. And by the end, if you did it again and they had to start, they're really enthusiastic because they've got the idea and they've got the confidence to then initiate the first idea. So it's lovely actually that doing it on a smaller scale, that carousel telling as well.
Keith, were you going to say something?
No, it's okay. I was fascinated by that idea because when in the exercises I do, I get the children to put their own story. I break them into threes so that they take it in turns to tell their story to the other two. But that idea of Hannah of actually retelling the story that somebody else has told, I think, oh, I might use that. That's a particularly some of the children really get stuck on, what they can tell. So if they're telling somebody else's story they've just heard, that might just be something I could use. Yeah, good.
Sorry, Hannah.
I was just going to say, and you can use it with a prompt. So, like a simple prompt, the day I lost something, and ask them to think of. So you can do it from a personal as well as the words got out of my head, but you know what I mean. So it could be a personal story. It could be something that's happened.
A traditional story, yeah.
My own variation on that is in the group storytelling, where the group tells one story and they pass a talking stick round and build the story themselves. They do it more than once, so they're all learning the story, and then they split up and they do the carousel. And now they'll tell the group story. So they've had everybody's chance to have a go and build the story as a group. Then they go and tell it themselves. Right. It is 28 minutes past and we've filled almost an hour. And the recording is going to be very short because we spent so long in breakout rooms. But there you go. In June, we are hoping, I can't remember can you remember the date, Hannah? We said.
Give me one moment and I will find out for you.
Thank you. We are hoping, and Hannah and I will have a chat after this because I'm going to confess to her that I haven't actually contacted the person I said I'd contact. I need to sort it out. Hoping to talk about working with a translator while storytelling. What the challenges for a translator is, as well as the storyteller. So trying to understand what a translator's having to deal with when they're translating for us. So that's our aim, and that's what we're hoping to do. But we've got to get that finalised.
I believe it's the 12th of June.
12th, thank you. Yeah, Sue Jennings, great. Well, I'm trying to think of the right phrase. The mother of drama therapy. Yeah. When I was a tiny probationary teacher, I went on one of her things. Right. I think we're within seconds of being half past. So I'm going to say thank you to everybody. I'm sorry it wasn't it wasn't what we expected to have in May. I hope it's been useful, and that it gives you some armory when you're discussing with teachers why they should be storytelling and why they should be inviting us in to do storytelling as well, because actually storytelling does matter. It's incredibly important because it is how we represent ourselves to the world and how we understand the world, and that needs to start with the youngest children, including mums at bedtime.
Absolutely, thank you.
I found this session particularly useful, Alistair. And are you willing to make those documents available?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, thanks very much. And the recording as well?
Yes.
Brilliant.
Everything's going to go up.
Very much.
Yep.
Very good. So it's really useful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I just want to say quickly, thank you, Alistair, for leading us in a brilliant session.
Yeah.
Lovely. I love it. Obviously, I get quite excited on this stuff. I can't help it.